High above Earth, the alien warship Draction floated in silence. Inside, Commander Varnock stood with his arms behind his back, staring at the blue and green planet below. "This is the place?" he asked. "Yes, Commander," said Lieutenant Zur, tapping the screen. "Planet Earth, home of the humans." Varnock's eyes narrowed. Primitive, small, and loud. He had seen human music in movies, strange creatures shouting, dancing, always fighting. But something felt different. About this mission, they had orders, observed the humans. Study their history. Prepare for invasion. Simple. Begin the data scan, Varnock ordered. A small drone flew from the ship and entered Earth's orbit. It quickly hacked into the planet's digital systems. Within seconds, thousands of files started to download. Human videos, images, documents. But something strange appeared at the top of the list. A folder named War_History. Zur blinked. "Shall I open it?" Varnock nodded. "Let's see what these monkeys have fought over." Zur clicked. The first file, World War I. The screen lit up with old, black and white images. Trenches, mud, smoke, explosions, soldiers with dead eyes, standing in cold water. One image showed a man screaming as gas burned his lungs. "Is this real?" Zur whispered. A voice file played. A human general spoke. "They fought for years. Millions died. 4 inches of land." Varnock felt a chill. "Why didn't they retreat?" Zur answered. "They didn't believe in quitting." More images flashed by soldiers running through machine gun fire. Bodies piled in craters, horses running into barbed wire. And then came the numbers. 20 million dead. 21 million wounded. They died for. "What?" asked a young alien cadet, watching from the side. "For pride," Varnock said coldly. "And fear. That is how humans fight." Another voice file started. Soldier's diary. "We stayed in the mud for weeks. Rats chewed our toes at night, but we never ran, we were told. To hold the line, so we did." The room fell silent. These creatures weren't just warriors. They were survivors. "Sufferers, Commander Zur," said voice shaking. "There's a second file." Varnock raised an eyebrow. "What now?" World War II. The images were worse. Cities on fire, bombs falling from the sky, human tanks rolling over bodies, mass graves, children crying in ruins, firestorms, chemical labs. They saw the Battle of Stalingrad, 2 million deaths in one city. They saw men charged with bayonets, knowing they'd die. Planes crash into ships. Soldiers frozen in snow, still holding there. Rifles. Then came Hiroshima, the nuclear flash, the mushroom cloud. Shadows burned into stone. ZURR turned pale. "They destroyed their own cities to win," Varnock said, stunned. "But that's madness," Zur cried. "No," Varnock whispered. "That's human war." The crew stepped back from the screen. One soldier threw up. Another sat down, shaking. "Commander, I want to request transfer," said one of the officers. Varnock didn't answer. A new clip played. "A human commander on DID. You are about to land on a beach filled with bullets. Some of you won't survive. But no, this we are fighting for freedom." They watched as thousands of humans ran into gunfire without hesitation. Zur stood frozen. "Why don't they fear death?" "'Cause," Varnock said slowly, "they think dying for their people is honorable." The room grew cold. These aliens had fought other species before, fast ones, strong ones, smart ones. But humans were different. Humans bled, broke, burned, but never stopped. A small beep broke the silence. "The next file is ready," Zur said. Varnock didn't reply, stared at the screen. Deep in thought, he had come to observe a weak species. But what he saw was something else, something dangerous. These weren't just warriors. They were creatures who embraced pain, who laughed through tears, who smiled before charging into death. He whispered to himself, if this is only the beginning. What else are they hiding? Outside, Earth spun quietly. In space, but in the hearts of the alien crew, a new feeling had begun to grow. Not anger, not hatred, fear. The air inside the alien warship Draction was heavy. No one spoke. Some soldiers still looked pale after watching the horrors of Earth's world wars. But Commander Varnak wanted to know more. Play the next file, he ordered. Lieutenant. Zur hesitated. Commander, the crew is shaken. Maybe I said play it. Zur took a deep breath and opened the third file from the war_history folder. World War II full archive. This time, the data wasn't just pictures and small reports. It was millions of documents, videos, audio clips, first-hand accounts. Diaries, civilian stories. Even medical reports from prisoners of war. The screen showed tanks rolling through Europe. Cities turned to ash, people running, screaming, bombs falling from the sky like rain. The Battle of Stalingrad appeared again, but this time in detail. One human soldier's voice echoed. We had no food. We ate rats. Tore curtains from windows to use as blankets. We fought in ruined buildings, room by room. An alien technician covered his ears. Varnak watched as human soldiers fought in the snow with frozen hands. Some had no shoes, some had lost toes to frostbite, yet they still held their rifles. Still moved forward. Then came the images of the Holocaust, millions of innocent people trapped, starved, burned. Why? Asked one alien soldier, voice shaking. Why would they do this to their own kind? Zur answered softly.
They were
told it was the only way to win. No war is worth this, another whispered. But the files were not finished. The Pacific Front began human soldiers on islands fighting jungle wars. Endless rain, disease, suicide attacks. They saw men crawl into caves with nothing but fire. They saw others dive into enemy ships with bombs strapped to their bodies. Then came Hiroshima, again but with full details. The aliens watched in horror as an entire city vanished in one white flash. Shadows burned into walls. People melted into nothing. And days later, they did it again. Nagasaki. ZURR turned to Varnak, Commander. They used a weapon that could destroy a city in seconds. And then, they used it twice. Varnak's hands tightened into fists. They don't fear death. Not even mass death. One alien soldier stood up. I'm resigning. I joined the fleet to fight soldiers. Not monsters. Another followed. I don't want to see more. I can't sleep after last night. Enough, Varnak shouted. The room went silent. He turned to Zur. Play the recordings from the soldiers. I want to hear from the ones who lived. Zur nodded and opened a file titled Veteran Testimonies. An old man appeared on the screen, wrinkled, weak, but with sharp eyes. I watched my best friend die beside me. We were both just 19. I kept fighting because he couldn't. I kept going because he would have. Another man spoke. I killed people. I hated it. But if I didn't, they would have killed my brother. War takes your soul, but sometimes you give it away to save others. An old woman with medals said, we bombed cities. I had no choice. They were bombing ours too. No one was innocent. Not even us. But we fought because surrender meant extinction. Alien crew listened, stunned. These weren't mad killers. They were survivors. Heroes and victims at the same time. Zur spoke quietly. They don't enjoy war, but they are ready for it. One alien soldier whispered, what kind of species can go through this? And keep living? Varnak had no answer. He turned away from the screen and looked out at Earth, so peaceful, so normal. Clouds drifted across the oceans. Lights blinked from cities. It looked harmless, but inside that world were memories soaked in blood, memories that never dried. And yet, humans didn't hide from those memories. They remembered them, told their children. Built museums, made films, wrote books. They carried the scars proudly, Commander. Zur asked, do we continue? Varnak looked at him. His eyes were tired now, dark. Yes, he said, Open the next file. The crew didn't cheer. They didn't move. They just stared at the screen. For the first time in their lives, they were truly afraid. Not of the humans' weapons, not of their technology, but of something far more dangerous, their will to survive. The alien warship Draction floated in silent orbit above Earth. Inside the control room, the lights were dim. No one laughed. No one smiled. Most of the crew had stopped eating. Some hadn't slept since the human war files began playing, Commander. Varnock stood still, staring at the next file on the screen. It was labeled The Cold War, 1947 to 1991. Another war? Asked a tired alien officer. Lieutenant Zur shook his head. No, not a normal one. Varnock spoke calmly. Then let's see what humans do when they're not fighting. Zur opened the file. For the first few seconds, there were no images of guns, no explosions, no screaming, just maps. Cities, faces of men in suits. Strange black and white videos of people talking at desks. Is this a war? A soldier asked. Where's the battle? Then the screen changed. Images of missiles. Submarines under ice, planes flying with nuclear bombs, men sitting in bunkers with keys, waiting for the order to end the world. Wait, they didn't fight? The young alien cadet asked. No, Zur answered. But they were always ready to. The Cold War had no battles. But the tension never stopped. Every moment was a possible ending. A video played. We were one button away from global destruction, human general said. For 40 years, the screen showed drills. Children hiding under desks.
Chaos.
Entire cities building shelters underground. Alien eyes widened as they saw the number of nuclear weapons. Built by Earth's two biggest powers, the USA and the Soviet Union. Over 60,000 warheads. Enough to destroy their own planet many times over. But they didn't use them? A confused alien asked. No, said Varnock. They stared at each other and waited. Human historians spoke in one clip. Both sides had enough fire to end all life, but knowing that stopped them. Fear kept peace. Cold minds. Hot weapons. A silence fell in the control room. To the Vorta soldiers, war was loud, fast, and full of motion. But this war was quiet. It was full of spies, lies, mind games. The humans didn't fight with bullets. They fought with information, fear, psychology. They tried to control the world without ever touching the battlefield. They play a different kind of war, said Zur. They call it strategy. Another human video appeared. A spy captured behind enemy lines. He smiled and said nothing. Even under torture, he never spoke. I would die before I talk, he said calmly. The alien soldiers looked at each other. Who would do that? Who would smile under torture? These people are terrifying, whispered one alien technician. Not because they fight, because they know how not to, Zur added. The Cold War lasted 44 years. No shots. But it almost ended the planet. Dozens of times. One moment flashed on screen, Cuban Missile. Crisis-1962. The world came minutes away from full nuclear war. Only one human commander, a submarine captain, refused to launch a missile. If he had obeyed orders, Zur explained the war would have started, but he disobeyed, asked the cadet. Yes, said Varnock, and saved Earth. The room was silent again. What kind of species created enough power to kill itself, then trusted one man not to use it? What happened after that? Someone asked. CURR opened the final folder inside. The end of the Cold War, no battle, no final fight, just people talking, agreements, promises. Walls falling. The Cold War ended. Not with war, but with words. Peace won. Commander Varnock stepped forward. He spoke slowly, coldly. They built weapons that could crack the planet. They pointed them at their enemies for decades. They trained children to hide from fire, and soldiers to die without blinking. He turned to his crew. Yet somehow, they didn't use them. The alien crew said nothing. This wasn't just strength. This was something worse. Control, patience, discipline. Humans didn't just fight with weapons, they fought with will. With silence, with cold minds and burning hearts, Commander Varnak whispered, they didn't need to fight to win, just needed to wait. Outside the ship, Earth looked calm, but every alien on board now knew the truth. The humans were more than just dangerous. They were masters of war and masters of peace. The alien warship Draction floated quietly above Earth. Inside, the crew was changing. The confident soldiers who once laughed at humans were now silent, wouldn't leave their rooms. Others stared at walls, eyes lost in thought. Commander Varnak stood before the main screen again. He didn't want to see more. But he had to. Next file, he said. Lieutenant Zur tapped the screen. Modern Conflicts 2, 1952 present. This file was massive. The war had not stopped. It had only changed shape. The first video began. Korea, 1950. The screen showed. Humans fighting in frozen mountains. Soldiers collapsed from the cold, but still fired their rifles. The war went back and forth for 3 long years, but ended in a draw. Thousands dead, Zur said. For nothing. Vietnam minus 1,955. This war was worse. Jungle, fire, hidden enemies. The aliens watched as humans walked through rain for weeks, their feet rotting, never knowing when a trap would explode. They saw helicopters crash. Napalm fire, screams. We didn't know who the enemy was, said one soldier in a video. Everyone looked the same. Even kids could carry bombs. One alien cadet stood and walked out of the room. He'd seen enough, but the files weren't. Over Middle East 1990s to 2020s, Zur spoke softly. These are the endless wars. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, the humans sent soldiers to deserts, to cities, to caves. They fought for years, and then went back again, Zur said. Did they win? A tired alien asked. No, not really. The screen showed human drones flying silently, dropping bombs from the sky. Then footage of suicide bombers, children used as shields. Villages burned. We didn't know why we were still fighting, one veteran said, but we stayed. We followed orders. The aliens stared in shock. Even when there was no victory, humans kept fighting. Even when home gave up, the soldiers stayed. 1. Clip showed a soldier lose his leg in an explosion. 2 weeks later, he returned to the front with a metal leg. Zur's voice trembled. They don't stop. Commander Varnak clenched his fists. They fight wars that don't end. They bleed for no reason. They bury friends. And still, return, he turned to the crew. We fight for logic, for gain. But humans, they fight because they're told to. More clips played. Human soldiers helping civilians. Crying in ruined buildings. Laughing with dirty faces. Singing songs in burned-out tanks. One young human was interviewed. Why do you keep going? The reporter asked. He answered simply, because someone has to. Zur whispered, they don't even know why they fight, but they fight anyway. But other alien soldiers stood up. Commander, cannot invade this planet. Varnak didn't respond. Another voice spoke. These wars never end. If we attack, they will fight us. Forever. Varnak stared at Earth. Saw on the screen it looked small, quiet. But now he knew better. This world was a battlefield with no finish line. A place where war was normal. A place where people learned to smile through pain. The alien crew had fought many species. Some were strong, some were smart, some were fast. But Earth was something else. A world where war was not a moment, but a lifestyle. A voice message played from a human general. We don't fight because we want to. We fight because we have to. And we will never stop until our people are safe. Commander Varnak turned away from the screen, closed the file. But Commander Zur asked, there's still more. I said close it, he snapped. The room fell silent. They had seen enough. War never left Earth, and anyone who brought war to Earth would never escape it. The alien warship Draction was no longer a place of pride. Fear had spread among the crew like a sickness. Some soldiers whispered about Earth in the halls. Others avoided the screen room completely. A few had already resigned, unable to take more, but Commander Varnak still stood tall. He had to understand humans. Every part of them. "Open the next file," he said. Lieutenant Zur paused. "It's not a war file, Commander. What is it?" Zur looked nervous. "It's about there." "Culture." Varnak narrowed his eyes. "Even better. Let's see what these death-worshipping creatures teach their young." Zur tapped the screen. The folder opened. Earth entertainment and culture, military influence. First it showed posters. Bright colors, muscular men in armor, planes, flying through fire, flags waving. "Movies?" young alien asked. Zur nodded. "Yes, but not just movies. These are stories." Titles appeared on screen: Saving Private Ryan, Black Hawk Down, American Sniper 1917, Full Metal Jacket, Hacksaw Ridge. One clip showed a man dragging his injured friend through gunfire. Another showed soldiers crying after a battle. Zur spoke softly. "These are not lies. These are based on real events. They show everything: pain, loss, bravery." Then another folder opened. Games. Titles flashed: Call of Duty, Medal of Honor, Battlefield. What? The aliens watched as human children played war for fun, holding fake guns, shouting commands, charging into battle on glowing screens. "Enjoy this?" asked an alien medic. "Yes," Zur replied. "They recreate war in their homes. They compete. They laugh. They win. Even children." "Yes, even children trained their minds for combat before they could write properly. They've turned war into entertainment," said Varna. "Powerful songs. Some slow, full of sadness. Others loud and filled with pride. A song played, 'I'm proud to be a soldier, even if I die.'" The aliens listened in silence. The words didn't sound like fear. They sounded like honor. Then came into view Zuriel. "Human soldiers." One spoke with tears in his eyes. "I lost half my unit. I still hear their voices at night, but I'd do it all again, because I love my country." Another smiled while showing his missing arm. "I don't regret a thing," he said. "I'd go back if I could." Zur whispered. "Their pain becomes fuel. Their wounds become medals." Another folder opened. Military training. The screen showed humans crawling through mud, running through fire, jumping from planes, screaming, pushing, failing, trying again. Over and over. "They train like they're already at war," said one alien soldier. "They are," Varnak answered. "Always." And then came something unexpected. Parades. Humans marched in straight lines, proudly wearing their uniforms. Crowds cheered. Children waved flags. They celebrated their warriors. They loved their soldiers. "No other species we've met does this," said Zur. "No one cheers for war." "But Earth does," Varnak said. "Because war is not shameful to them. It's a part of life." Finally, the screen showed monuments, huge statues, walls of names, burning flames. They built these to remember the dead, but not as victims, as heroes. One statue read, "Freedom is not free." Another, "They died so others could live." The alien crew watched in silence. Earth wasn't just a place of war. It was a world where war became honor, duty, and even love. Jawar are looked at Varnak. They bleed, they break, they lose, and yet they sing about it. The commander gave a slow nod. "This is not a race that fears death," said. "It is a race that welcomes it. It means something." The crew was no longer just afraid of Earth's weapons. They were afraid of Earth's spirit, a spirit that refused to die, a culture that built its very soul around battle. Varnak looked out at the planet once more, so small, so loud, so dangerous. He turned to the crew. "Send word. To the fleet. No invasion, no contact. Earth is not ready." He paused, "because we are not ready for Earth." The warship Draction was quiet like a tomb. Many alien soldiers had stopped reporting for duty. Some sat in dark corners, whispering to themselves. Others had already submitted resignations. Commander Varnak stood alone in the command room. He had seen human war. He had seen human pain. He had seen human pride in that pain. But there was still one thing left to understand. "Zur," he said. Open the next file. Lieutenant Zur looked up. His face was pale. It's a civilian file, Commander. Not about soldiers. Good, I want to know what happens after the war. I want to see the survivors. Zur opened the folder. Post-war Earth, veterans, memories, and healing. The first image showed an old man sitting alone in a park. He wore a military jacket. His medals were pinned to his chest, the file said, age 94. World War II veteran. A video played. The man spoke slowly but clearly. I was 18 when I went to war. My friends didn't come home. I still see them in my dreams. But I live. Because they can't. Another clip showed a woman holding a picture of her brother. He died in Iraq. He was only 22. Every year I light a candle and tell his story. I won't let the world forget him. Zur looked around. The crew was listening. No one moved. No one blinked. These weren't warriors anymore. They were family members, teachers, shopkeepers, grandparents, but they still carried the war inside them. Another video showed a man with no legs. He sat in a wheelchair, surrounded by children. He smiled. I lost my legs in Afghanistan, but I didn't lose my heart. I go to schools now. I tell kids why peace matters. A young alien officer whispered. Why aren't they angry? Answered, some are, some cry, some break. But most, they keep going. The next clip showed veterans building homes for the poor. Others planted trees. Some helped other wounded soldiers heal. Varnock stepped closer to the screen. These people, ... they suffer more than any race we've seen, and still they help others. Zur nodded. It seems to be part of who they are. Then came a strange scene. A reunion. Old men hugged each other, crying. One was American, one was German. They had fought on opposite sides in World War II. We tried to kill each other once, one man said. Now we meet every year and we remember the horror, so it never happens again. The aliens stared in disbelief. Forgiveness? Between enemies? Impossible. And yet, the humans did it. HFY opened another video. A group of veterans sat in a circle. Some had missing arms. Others had scars. They were laughing. It was hell, one said. But now we're family. We share that pain. We turned it into strength. Zur whispered, they survive war. And then they survived the memory of it. One alien soldier stood up slowly. I don't understand, he said. How do they go through all that tan, still smile? Zur replied, because they want others to smile. That's what they fight for. Commander Varnock was quiet for a long time. He looked back at Earth. For the first time, he didn't see weapons or warriors or flames. He saw people, real people. Broken, healing, remembering, and still moving forward. They carry the weight of war, he said, but they do not let it crush them. A final video played. A human soldier stood at a school. Children sat around him. What's the most important thing you learned in war? One child asked. He thought for a moment, then said, that peace is something you have to fight for every single day. The screen went dark. No more files, no more stories, just silence. ZURR turned to Varnock. What do we do now? Varnock's voice was calm. We return home, Commander. We have studied monsters, heroes, and survivors. He said, Earth is not a target. He paused. Earth is a lesson. The alien warship Draction was no longer just observing Earth. It was a ship falling apart from the inside. Commander Varnock walked through the hallways in silence. The walls were cold, but the air was heavy with fear. Soldiers whispered in corners. Some stared at nothing, their eyes wide. Others packed their bags quietly. One shouted in the sleeping bay, I'm not going down there. You saw the files. Another replied, they fought for centuries. They don't stop. Even death doesn't scare them. Word had spread across the entire Vorta fleet. Not just on Dr. X, ships in nearby space had also accessed the human war records. Now panic was growing. Vassar rushed into the command room. His face was pale. Commander, he said quickly, 34 soldiers resigned in the last 2 hours. 7 more locked themselves in their rooms. Varnock nodded. Expected. There's more, Zur continued. Fleet Captain Rockle sent an urgent message. He pressed a button, and a loud voice filled the room. Commander Varnock. This is Rockle of the ship Corin's Eye. We demand answers. What have you found on Earth that's causing this fear? My soldiers are refusing orders. Some have even attempted escape pods. Send a full report now. Varnock didn't reply right away. Instead, he opened the main screen. Earth glowed peacefully below. A quiet, beautiful lie. Zurr spoke softly. They think this world is harmless because it looks calm. They haven't seen what's inside, Varnock replied. Suddenly, an alarm sounded. A security officer entered the room. Commander, the 2 crew members tried to destroy the war data files. They stopped them. Did they explain why? Almach asked, they said, and I quote, if the others keep watching, no one will stay sane. Zur swallowed hard. Sir, even if we stop them now, more will follow. The ship is breaking. And it wasn't just this ship. Other Vorta vessels were sending panic messages too. One scout ship had lost control. Its captain locked himself in the medbay, muttering about humans who smiled while dying. Another ship shut down its weapons and turned away from Earth entirely. The Vorta had never seen anything like this. Not from a weapon, not from a disease, but from a history, from truth. The fear wasn't in what humans could do. It was in what they had already done and survived, Commander. Varnock called an emergency meeting with the remaining officers. We must make a decision, he said firmly. Do we stay and risk total collapse? Or do we leave and report Earth as off limits? One officer stood up. Commander, if we invade, we will not win. Not because they are stronger, but because they are impossible to break. Another added, we saw. Their children play war. Their elders forgive old enemies. Their wounded smile through pain. We don't understand them, and that makes them dangerous. Zur stepped forward. They are not just fighters, they are endurers. They turn pain into power. The room went silent. Every officer in the room knew the answer already, Commander. Varnock nodded slowly, then it's decided. He pressed a command into the console. A message began broadcasting to the entire Vorta fleet. All ships. Immediate. Order from Commander Varnock. Earth is no longer a target. Mission cancelled. Do not engage. This species is unstable and unbreakable. Repeat, Earth is off limits. As the message echoed through space, dozens of soldiers on Draxion sighed in relief. Some wept, some saluted, some just collapsed in silence. The invasion was over before. It even began, not because humans attacked, but because they had already shown that nothing could stop them. Not time, not pain, not fear. They had mastered the art of never giving up, and that was the most terrifying weapon of all. The warship. Draxion no longer looked like a vessel ready for battle. Lights were dim. Weapons were powered down. Soldiers walked quietly through the halls. No longer proud warriors, just beings who had seen too much. Commander Varnock stood in the main command room. He had just sent the final message to the Vorta High Council. Earth is not to be touched. Do not invade. Do not approach. Do not provoke. There was no reply yet. But across the fleet, the message was spreading fast. Other captains followed. Varnock's lead. Ship after ship turned away from Earth's orbit. They weren't retreating out of weakness. They were escaping out of fear, not of death, but of a species that refused to be broken. Sir stepped into the room. Commander, confirmation from High Command. Earth is now marked as a red zone. Varnock nodded. Good, no one else should make the mistake of going near them. Zur hesitated. Sir, do you think they know? The humans? Yes. Do you think they know how close we came? Varnock looked out at Earth. Cities sparkled below. Oceans shimmered in the sunlight. A beautiful planet, hiding so much blood and fire under its calm sky. No, he said, and that's the most terrifying part. They didn't need to fight. Us. Their past did it for them. On the screen, a video feed showed a human soldier standing in front of a war memorial. He was alone. His uniform was old. His eyes were calm. A child walked up to him and asked, "Did you go to war?" The man smiled. Yes. Were you scared? The man looked at the memorial stone walls full of names. Always, he said. But I still went, because others were counting on me. The child asked one last question. Would you fight again? The man's voice was soft. If I have to, yes, without a second thought. The video ended. Zur didn't speak. He didn't. Have to? That answer said everything. Commander Varnock turned to his crew. This mission is over. But let this remain in our records forever. He looked at the screen one last time. Earth, a planet. Where pain was power, where war was memory, where survivors wore scars like medals, where death was not an end, but a promise to rise again. And above all, a place where the spirit of a fighter lived in every human soul. From child to elder, may no Vortiship ever forget, Varnock said. He gave the final order. Set course away from Earth. Maximum distance. Do not return. The engines hummed. The stars shifted. And slowly, silently, the warship Draction turned and disappeared into the blackness of space. Behind them, Earth spun on quiet, unaware, and undefeated.